Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to What Up Clay's channel. We're talking about all kinds of things like how to fix, how to build it, how to maintain it, product reviews, or anything that comes across my desk. Today we're going to talk about a carburetor for a 4-stroke motor on a motorcycle, buggy, quad, what have you. A while back I explained the operations and maintenance on and troubleshooting on a 2-stroke carburetor. So this one right here is a 4-stroke. Now, this one right here came off of a Tao buggy, Chinese buggy. There's also the same one that goes on their on the Chinese motorcycles, the quads, and so on. This one in particular is a cable-driven carburetor. What that means is the slide that goes up and down. You can see it in there inside. Is driven by a cable that goes inside of here, and it pulls the slide up and down, up and down. The only other variant would be a vacuum operated one slide that where it's use a vacuum. Exactly how it's said. It's a vacuum will cause the slide to go up and down. Well, as soon as I get one of those, I'll go over that and take it apart and show how that works. So, but this one here, we'll start with we're going to start with a choke. This right here is the choke. Cable comes through here. This is the mount for the cable. Cable connects onto this, and it pulls this arm up to turn the choke on. There'll be a lever somewhere else that you pull on it, and it will pull this up. When you pull this up, it closes that flap right there in the back. What this does is it keeps air from going inside. So when you give it gas, or you go in to start it, and the piston comes down and starts sucking gas and air through, instead of getting so much air, it'll pull more fuel. And therefore, it is run rich, and the fuel will ignite easier, and the bike will start. You wait for it to warm up, turn the choke off, flap opens up. It's all good, runs good from there. That's how the choke works. Now, to find out what size, how you know what size a carburetor is, it's measured by the venturi on the input side of the carburetor. So this is the input. Air flows through here. Air gas mixture flows out this side. So it'd be the venturi that's inside of here that gets measured. This one right here is a 30 millimeter. Mostly tub because the part number is a PZ30, so the 30 stands for what size it is. Now for adjusting the idle, there's a few things different on a 4-stroke carburetor versus a 2-stroke carburetor. One of the biggest one is the biggest one that's noticed is going to be the choke, because it's totally different. 4-strokes have the close off here. On a 2-stroke, it just has a needle that adjusts the fuel and the gas, but you can see my other videos, learn to know more about how that works. So, on a 4-stroke, to adjust the idle, actually lifts and lowers the slide inside. That's what adjusts the idle on a 4-stroke. This right here, when I turn this needle here, this screw here, if I turn it in, I don't know if you can see it. Maybe you see it better on this side. If I turn it all the way in, you'll see the slide open up, because there's a slant on the inside that's causing, when the screw goes in, it pushes that slide up. And then when you unscrew it, it goes down. I don't know if you can see that in the video, the picture, but that's how it works. I'll just take it completely out. But see, you see that it's a little rounded on there, so it doesn't scratch the slide when it goes in and out. Air fuel mixture. This one right here. I'll get into that when I open this up, because there's channels and stuff that go inside. So I'll get into more detail on it. We'll go ahead and do the slide. We'll do the slide this now. I'll take the slide out. Now when you take this out, you've got to be very, very careful. Push down as you turn and lightly let up if you have to readjust your grip, because there is a spring inside. And there's a spring. Now, the piston, or the slide, this is the slide. Has the needle right here on it. And remember when the idle adjusting screw, when there's a slant, I mentioned there's a slant. If you look right here in this groove, this is what the screw goes in, and as it screws in, it pushes this up. Slanted right there. I'm not sure if you can see that very well in the picture, but that's how it works. Now, the cable will go through this hole, come out through here, go down through the spring, of course, and it will connect down through. There's like a little button that goes down and grabs this this slide. It slides up. So when you turn the throttle, this right here will slide up, and let go of the throttle, it comes back down. That needle right here goes down into the main jet, and as you see, it's tapered. So the more it comes out, the more fuel it allows to come mixing in with the air that comes through. So that's why that's working that way. Now, if you're riding and or if you're giving a lot of gas, if your bike runs great, low throttle, mid throttle, and then as you start to get like above the 60% range, 70% range, it starts to bog out. That's usually a sign that you're not getting enough fuel into your motor. So you can adjust the height of this needle. Inside, if you look at the needle, there's rings here. There's a E-clip right here, and you'll see little grooves here. To get more fuel, you'll go all the way to the bottom. That will lift the needle up, so the needle will retract more. It's more tapered. Right now, I think I have, looks like I have one more slot that I could put in here, but it's all the way, right now it's all the way down. Now if you're getting too much gas flow and it's running too rich, you could take and move it up, which puts the needle down inside the main jet more. So now, to find out if your bike is running too lean, which means you're not getting enough gas, you can actually take your hand and cover up just part of the intake and give it gas. Now, don't use a rag or anything like that, because when you give gas, it's going to suck that rag right in, because there's a lot of suction here. It's not going to suck your hand in, it doesn't hurt. But you put your hand here and you rev it, and if you can rev it out without it bogging anymore and cutting out, then that means that your bike is running too lean. You're getting too much air in there and not enough fuel. So you need to adjust the needle, or you need to go with the bigger main jet. I would recommend going with the bigger main jet, because if you're at that point, the needle's not going to do much good. So, all right, so that's that portion of the carburetor with the slide. Well, I'll show you how this works. So when the slide goes in, you can see that hole down there, that little the main jet. When you put the slide in, you'll see the needle. The needle will go inside that hole. And that's where the fuel comes out of. And when you're getting to 20% or more throttle, that's the fuel you're relying on, is what's coming out of that hole. So let's go ahead and get to the innards of the carburetor. Okay, now I have the float bowl off. The float bowl is what the gas sits in. So when the fuel comes in through this hole, This hole the fuel comes in. It comes through here. It goes through the float needle, and then it ends up inside of here. Now when you're cleaning a carburetor, one part of the carburetor that always gets overlooked by a lot of people is the overflow valve, the overflow needle. This right here, as you can see, you see how it protrudes out higher than the rest of the bowl. That's because it's going to be higher than the rest of the fuel level. Fuel levels on these are usually going to be right about on the rim right here. You look at the owner's manuals and they'll pretty much tell you where they're supposed to be, but good rule of thumb, I can almost bet it's going to be between the bottom of this ridge and the top of the ridge. It's going to be somewhere in there. Usually if it's less than that, they'll have a marking on the side of the float bowl on where it goes. So this right here, if it fills up too much with fuel will then come out of there and then come out the bottom. Always make sure that you have a tube on the bottom of this. If you can get bugs up in here, you can get dirt up in there or whatever if you don't have your tube on it. If that plugs up and for some reason the float pin does not close off like it's supposed to, and the bowl fills up, all that fuel is going to keep filling up. It's going to come out your carburetor through here, and it's going to end up filling up your motor, and next you know you have a crankcase full of fuel instead of oil. Now when you clean it out, you can blow through it, make sure that you're getting that air goes through. Usually not a lot of air goes through. It doesn't flow really fast through there. It's a really small hole. Also, when you're done riding your bike for a little bit, or your buggy or what have you, whenever you're done riding, and it's going to be more than a few weeks till you ride again, it's just good practice to do it, period. Whenever you're done riding, it's good practice just to twist this right here, open it up, and if you look down here at the very bottom, there's a hole right down here at the very bottom. So when you twist this plug, you don't have to take it all the way out, you just open it up a little bit and you'll see fuel come out of here. That'll drain the fuel from this float bowl. Therefore you don't get the all the deposits build up and the fuel goes nasty. It puts a film inside and starts plugging up stuff. So it's a good thing to do. And then once it's done draining, go ahead and just close it off. It doesn't have to be tight. You just make it a little snug. Now let's get into the floats. Show you how the floats work and the float needle. Now when you take the float off, be very careful. Be very careful when you move this thing around without the bowl on it, because as soon as you take the bowl off, the bowl is what holds this float needle in, or the pin. This pin right here, it just easily slides out. See that there? And then the float comes off. Now always remember how the float came off. Take pictures, do whatever. The flat spot usually goes on this side here. It faces down into the bowl. Again, just make sure you see how that, if you put it in the wrong way, the float's not going to work very well. This right here is a float needle. The needle usually fits on this tang right here. But you have to be careful, because when you take this off, sometimes it falls right off. This falls on the ground. Now the needle, if you look at the tapered end of it, it has like a rubber skin on it. You have to be careful not to damage that, because that's what helps it seal when it sits inside of there. So So be careful when you're cleaning. If you do damage that, it's going to leak. You're going to get leaks. It's probably good to just go ahead and replace them when you pull these out anyway. They're not very expensive. A whole rebuild kit with jets and everything usually runs in the neighborhood of like, well, less than 10 bucks. So they're pretty inexpensive. When you're cleaning, make sure that you get all the debris out of here. You clean out really good, because any type of debris in there will cause the needle to not sit very well. There's not much pressure on there when it's sitting in there. When you're putting it back in, you always want to make sure that you have the needle on the tang or tongue, whatever you want to call that piece there, slides in. Of course, I put it upside down. See, it's easy. Goes back in, then you put your needle back in. Now, when you're adjusting your float, you adjust your float by bending that tang. So if you want to, if it needs to close sooner, you'll bend it that direction. So you'll take the tang and you'll bend it down towards the carburetor. If you want to stay open a little longer, you'll bend it out. You'll bend it up. And how you do that, you just take a flathead screwdriver, you just stick it underneath there, you just give a little bit of a bend. I mean, it'll look like you didn't even touch it. That's how little of adjustments you want to make at a time. So, yeah, just be careful when you're doing that. Now, when you do the adjustments, real quick, what I do after the floats are on and everything like that, how I adjust the carburetor is I'll have the carburetor inside the motorcycle, therefore, or the buggy, whatever. Therefore, you know it's exactly how it sits inside the vehicle, because sometimes it'll be sitting there like this, sometimes it'll sit straight, whatever. So I take a clear rubber hose that fits on this end here, and I'll bring it around and I'll have it to where it's going up. And then I'll open up, so basically carb will be straight up and down. Obviously I'm laying it down here because it's better for the picture of it, otherwise you'd be looking at the top like that. But say it's straight up and down, the hose will come straight up. I'll open that up and I'll turn the gas on. The gas will go inside, fills up the bowl. Now the gas will then fill up that tube as well, and you can see where the fuel stops. So if the fuel goes up the tube and it stops right here, that means that it's not allowing enough fuel in. And if it's going up higher, if it's going past this mark and it's going up here, that means it's letting too much fuel in. So that's how I'll do it. And then I'll just keep bending that tang until I get that thing to stop right where I want it to, and then of course I'll close it off and then finish putting everything back together. So that's the float bowl section. Now let's start getting into the needles. Okay, we're getting in the needles, or the jets. Not needles, or not needles at all. The jets. We'll start with the idle jet. That's a small jet here, also known as a pilot jet, also known as the slow jet. So pilot jet, idle jet, slow jet, GD jet, whatever jet you want to call it. This right here, from 0 to 20% of the throttle, fuel is coming through this thing, through this jet right here. Anything above that, fuel is relying on the main jet. Every single jet will have a hole that goes all the way through. So if you ever pull one of these out and you look through, it's going to be hard. Even looking through it with the sun on the other side, it's going to be very hard. I don't even think you'll be able to see it with the camera, because it's really hard to see. So there has to be a hole all the way through, so you must be able to see it. That hole is so small. So I took a strand of wire here that I pulled from another piece of wire. See how thin that is? That won't even fit down the hole. When I clean these, what I'll do is I'll get a really thin piece of thin piece of wire, make it really long. I'll smash it up a little bit with a pair of pliers, what have you, wrap around my fingers, and then I'll shove it through the jet. If I can get through the jet. There you go. So you can see the hole goes all the way through. But what I'll do is I'll take that and then I'll just work it back and forth and get it nice and clean. If you can't get a piece of wire through it, it's probably have to go down and get another one. They don't really make a needle or anything like that small that I've seen that can punch through that. Now if you want to know what size they are, you look right here on the side of them on the idle jets, slow jets, pilot jets. If you look right here, you'll see a number. They have the numbers here. This says Z40. It's a 40 is the number. So that's the jet you'll need for this. And you get them. I think you buy a pack of like 10 of these for like $5 or something like that. Pretty inexpensive. So that's the pilot jet. Now what it does is it allows fuel to pick up from the bowl, and there's a little teeny hole right there, little itty bitty hole. That's where the fuel comes out when it's in idle mode, slow mode, whatever, up to 20% throttle. Now now let's go ahead and talk about the main jet. So the main jet, this is what the needle comes down this shaft right here. The throttle needle, this thing right here, remember that? That right here comes down this shaft. This one here, if you ever want to know what size these ones are, on the main jets, I only know them as being called main jets. Any other names I haven't heard yet. But you'll see a number right here. They're usually on the ends here. Very rarely will I ever see them on the sides, but they're usually always right here on the end. So these ones here, they have cleaners. The holes are big enough to stick a cleaner through, and they have plenty of them out there. Now, when you're cleaning them, you don't try to force things in there. You just slowly put the cleaning sticks in there and move them around. You don't want to try to force it too much, because then it takes too much. You have a chance of taking too much material off and end up making the hole bigger than what it's really designed for. If you do take some material off, some people say, oh no, just buy new jets, don't ever clean them, that ruins them. I've been doing this for, I can't tell you how many years, and I've never taken off enough material to make a difference on them. So also, if you remember to always clean drain your float bowls, you won't have the issues with fuel and crap building up on these things, because it's not there, it's not doing them. But that's how this works. Pretty simple, not much to say about it. So let's move on to the air fuel mixture. So this right here is the air fuel mixture needle. When you take this thing out, you have to be very, very careful. Where the factory presets are on these, look at your owner's manuals, they'll tell you. Normally, they're somewhere around about 2 to 2.5 turns. So what that means, you turn it all the way in as far as you can. Don't try to crank it, just turn it until it stops. And then you turn it out 2 full rotations. And 2 to 2.5 full rotations. That's usually what the standard is on the fuel mixtures. So when you take these things out, be very careful. There's a spring on there, and at the end there's usually like a plastic or a rubber washer. These right here keep it. See, I have a metal washer on there and a rubber bushing. What that does, it keeps the pressure on the threads and keeps the needle from backing out. So here's how these right here work. Right here you'll see 2 holes. This one right here goes to the main jet. What that does, that allows a certain amount of air to flow in with the fuel on the main jet. It's already preset, you don't have to adjust that part. With this one here goes to the pilot jet right there, and it also goes to the needle, the air fuel mixture needle. Now when you turn it in, when you turn the needle in, right here is where it allows the air to flow through. So if you turn it all the way out, it allows air to flow from this hole all the way out through this hole here. So air, fuel, electricity, everything flows the path of the least resistance. So if you plug this thing, if you turn this needle all the way in, it's going to obviously plug up this venturi here. So when the air is coming through, it's sucking air through, sucking gas. It's going to suck more air and more gas through this. And if it's sucking more through this, that means it's going to be sucking more gas. More gas is going to flow through this. Now if you're at a higher altitude where there's not as much air, you don't want very much gas flowing through this because you're going to be running too rich. So you want to slow down the fuel flow through the pilot jet. So what you do is you open the hole a little bit. Open the air fuel mixture, back it out a little bit. That'll allow air to flow through this one. By doing that, you're causing less of a suction for this side here, which is again going to be this hole right back there. Less suction there, more suction there, less gas flow through there, more, and you'll let a little bit of air flow through here, which means it'll cause your bike to run a little bit less rich. So if you ever have one of these venturis right here get plugged up, blow through this section or these. Just plug them up. You got to plug those holes up and just blow air through. Try not to blow through this way, because if you plug up these little holes here, you're in big trouble. It's not going to come up through those big holes. You can try covering up these little holes here and blow through these here and hope that whatever's in there comes up through these. You can try that. Oh, all right. So let's talk a little bit about the needles, or the not needles. Why do I keep saying needles? The jets. If your jet is too small, the pilot jet. If your pilot jet is too small, that means your bike is going to be running lean. Lean means not enough gas. Rich means you have a lot of gas. So you're going to be running you're going to be running lean. If it's too small, that means that if you rip on your throttle a little bit, just get a little bit of rip, your bike's going to bog. Your buggy, whatever, it's going to bog. So you probably have one of these that are clogged, you probably have one that's too small, so on. You check it, make sure it's clean. If it's clean, you get a bigger one, go up a size. You can buy a kit, so you go up a size, you put it in. If it's still not good enough, you put a bigger one in. Same thing with these here, with the main jet. If you get it like the half throttle area, and you just like gun it, and it takes a while for the RPMs to kick up, you probably have too small of a main jet also. So, and if your bike's running hot, pretty hot, then you probably have a bike that's running too lean. So I believe that was, I pretty much covered everything on the carburetor. Taking a quick look, making sure. Yeah, I believe I pretty much covered everything on it. If you have any questions on the carburetor, on how it works, or problem with your current bike or quad, whatever you have, put it in the comments. If you want to learn more about it, if I missed something, put it in the comments. Hope this was informative for you. I hope it works out. I hope you're able to get your vehicles running really good, get them all cleaned up nice and good now. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. If you don't like this video, subscribe anyway, just so you can make fun of me. Alright guys, you take care.